let's reinforce the idea again with this nice little schematic. So we said there are about 1.8 million total number of species discovered so far. A couple of thousand are being added every year on land and the ocean. And currently, there are about 250,000 documented marine species. And remembering that we haven't explored much of the bottom of the ocean, the deep ocean, this is not a number that's going to remain the same for too long, right? But if you're interested, we will see the light zones in the ocean soon. You can go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, MBARI, which is in Monterey, California, Monterey Bay Aquarium. They have beautiful videos of marine life at various places in the open ocean, in the benthos, in the dark deep ocean, and so on and so forth. Okay, so reinforcing of the total species of 1.8 million, 86% are on land because of this plentiful of niches with different environmental conditions where species can find a specific habitat and get adapted and become experts at surviving there. Okay, even on land with global warming, what do you have to worry about? Basically about species that can move when temperature and rainfall and so on change, and those that cannot move. So there are so-called sedentary specialists which cannot move easily, and there are mobile generalists which can move easily. But even then, if you have an ecosystem which includes some vegetation, some birds, some insects, some pollinators, and so on, not the entire ecosystem will move. Only few species will move. So you will change things. There have been natural changes over time, but now we are accelerating the time scale at which the environment is changing by global warming. So it's the question of how many species will go extinct and how many will actually survive. So 14% of the total number of species are marine species, and as we said, within the marine environment, most of the environmental niches are in the benthos. So 98% of all marine species are in the benthos. Only 2% are in the pelagic, right? So you can go diving around coral reefs and find a lot of rich habitats in kelp forests and so on, but in general, this is the general distribution of species. Looking back to now oceanography, what are the marine conditions doing to the adaptation of marine organisms? As we said, they have to worry about pressure, salinity, and temperature, plus there are other things like oxygen, etc. Right? So the marine environment in general is more stable, doesn't change very fast. Organisms in the ocean are thus able to withstand less changes. But remember things like El Nino. We said when El Nino happens, the cold upwelling waters disappear and are replaced by warm surface waters. What does that mean in terms of nutrients, in terms of phytoplankton, and so on? So Galapagos, for example, which is in the middle of where El Nino happens, huge changes happen from a normal year to an El Nino year, or from a normal year to a La Nina year. We'll look at some of those things a little bit later on, but the environmental conditions obviously make a difference. So here are some adaptations. Protoplasm, which is the substance of living matter in the body, in the cells. 80% of that mass is water. Marine animals obviously do not want to get desiccated or dehydrated. So you can see that the jellyfish is almost 95% water. It looks transparent. It just filters. It's always going like this because it's taking water, filtering the little particles that are in the water and spitting out the water, so it gets nutrients, energy from the floating particles. Could be phytoplankton, could be debris, detritus of the dead material of the other animals, and so on. And jellyfish, it turns out, can actually survive very well in waters that have become less productive because of global warming. So in Sea of Japan and off the coast of Oregon, you're getting bigger and bigger jellyfish because they are responding better to global warming, which has killed other life forms. Okay, again, biological loopholes finding place among nature's rules. Lobster is 79%, scallop, herring, and humans, we are almost 65% water. Okay, viscosity is another marine water property that the animals have to adjust to, and buoyancy. So they want to remain at a certain place in the water column, so they have to match their weight density to remain at that location, right? So buoyancy matters, which means they have to find a way to resist sinking, right? So different support structures evolve. Cold water has higher density, so higher buoyancy. So cold water species typically can get larger than a warm water species and have fewer appendages which are required to increase buoyancy. Okay, so two species are being shown here. One has this kind of ornate appendages growing all over, and it's thinner, smaller than this blue species here. So viscosity is a property that acts when you move in the water. It's the resistance to motion. So you want to use that property to be able to float. The main thing is viscosity actually decreases with temperature. So warm water species also have to deal with viscosity, so they need these kind of appendages. They tend to be smaller, they tend to have more appendages to be able to float at their required location. I will stop this here and come to the surface volume effects, because remember that the animals have to take nutrients from the water and get rid of the waste into the water through the cell walls. So the surface area is going to become important for that. The volume is important for buoyancy and taking care of viscosity. But the surface area is going to be critical for taking in nutrients and getting rid of waste. So they have to optimize the surface area to volume.